Warren County area and beyond. Again, anyone with information or concerns is asked to contact Pennsylvania State Police Warren at 814-728-3600. I would be happy to take your questions at this time.
Some people are reporting that a dog nearby is associated with Michael Burnham. Can you clarify?
Sorry, I'll get to each of you, but...
Lieutenant Colonel, Drake Clark from News Nation, do you have any indication that Michael Burnham might be getting some kind of assistance from anyone in the area here?
We do believe that he is getting some assistance. From where or what that type of assistance is, I'm not prepared to comment on. But as I've previously indicated, we are investigating that, and we are prepared to prosecute anyone who does offer him assistance.
And can you talk about that stockpile? What you guys found? What type of items you found at the camping site in the stockpile?
I won't go any further than to say some supplies that would assist him with prolonged stay in a wooded area.
Some are reporting that a neighbor found their dog dead, somebody had broken into their home. Is that associated with Michael Burnham at this point in the investigation?
That has been investigated, as have several other burglaries, not only here, but in adjacent areas, even across the border into New York. To this point, we're not aware of any of those that are directly associated with Burnham.
Lieutenant Colonel, it was mentioned by the sheriff here that they believe that he rappelled from the side of the building using bed sheets tied into rope. Is there any indication that either he was getting assistance from within the prison or that this could have been an inside job?
I can tell you that that is being thoroughly investigated. That is not the focus of our investigation. The Warren City Police Department is the primary in that particular investigation, but we are obviously discussing all aspects of these investigations. That is something that's been looked at, and when they have their investigation completed, I'm sure we'll be prepared to address that.
And can you give any details as to the search that occurred yesterday on 3rd and Water?
There are a number of searches that have occurred, and I'm familiar with that one, of course. That particular one was in regard to a tip or phone call, and I don't want to go any further than that, but he was not located at that residence, but there had been a reported sighting, and our people responded accordingly.
Lieutenant Colonel, is there any reason to believe at the moment that you're any closer today than you were 24 hours ago to finding Burnham?
You know, we've conducted many of these types of investigations of various size and scope over the years. It's always impossible until you've actually captured a person to know just how close you are. What I can tell you is, as I've said, we are pushing him hard. You know, I've talked about the resources that are committed. We continue to ramp that up. We continue to make sure that we're putting pressure on him. And we won't know until we capture him just how close we really are. But I am convinced that the approach that we are taking will be successful. There is no doubt in my mind we will capture him at some point. I can't obviously make a promise when that will be, but sooner rather than later, and we are working diligently to make that happen.
Obviously, geography plays a big role, and it's difficult here in a manhunt because of the terrain, but does it affect your technology as well? Is it harder to communicate, or there's some pieces of technology you might use that you can't because of the woods, because of the lack of cell service, etc.?
There are challenges in any search or manhunt like this. I believe we are able to adapt to any of those challenges. You know, certainly each one presents its own problem, and we deal with that and we overcome it. There is not any challenge that we have met here that I believe will preclude us from successful conclusion.
Yeah, Lieutenant Colonel, I wanted to clarify again. You said that you do not feel that those break-ins that have been noted in New York State and some adjacent areas are directly connected to him. And number two, what I was going to ask is, those ring videos, some of the videos that you've been collecting from residents, did they turn up anything so far that you feel?
I don't want to comment on specific pieces of information or leads or evidence. Again, what I would say in general is that we have found no indication in any of those break-ins that they were directly related. You know, we do use technology to try and determine whether they're there. We process crime scenes and we look for information that we can match or not with a particular individual. And so trying to use all of those pieces along with the information we get from the on-scene responding investigators are what I'm basing my conclusion on at this point, that we have not seen anything that tells me that those are related to Burnham.
What was pretty cursory though, from what we're understanding, just town police going out to check and maybe just talking to the resident as opposed to a really strong investigation at the scene, trying to determine if he was breaking windows or what exactly he might have done. And especially knowing that perhaps he has a family in that area.
Yeah, and I am aware of those specific concerns when it comes to family in the area. And again, without going into detail, based on our information we've received, not only from local police, but in the case of anything in New York, we're working actively with New York State Police. I believe we're receiving reliable information, and that's what I'm basing my.
You said you're confident that you're going to capture him based on your approach. Could you elaborate more on what your approach is? What do you mean? What makes you so confident that you're going to eventually capture him?
Well, you know, I believe we are putting significant pressure on him. We're actively pushing him in these areas. If he is here, he is not getting any rest, and we are using technology to our benefit. And again, I don't want to go into all of those types of technology, but I believe at some point we will force him to make a mistake, and when he does, we will use that to our advantage.
Have there been any sightings confirmed?
There have been a number of sightings. I cannot rule out conclusively every one of those. And so again, we follow up on each and every one of those, and all of those factor into the next steps in the investigation.
Lieutenant Colonel, is his family cooperating with the investigation?
I don't want to comment on what they may or may not do.
Yesterday, you said you found campsites since the presser yesterday and this presser now. Have you found any more campsites?
We've continued to search the wooded areas and a number of residences, and some abandoned structures as well. We have found items that I'm not prepared today to say that they are related to him. There will be further investigation, and we'll look into whether we believe those are or are not related to him.
Lieutenant Colonel, how crucial is the time element here? Yes, you wait for him to make a mistake and capitalize, but this is someone with a believed violent past. How do you balance waiting for a mistake with trying to make sure someone doesn't get
Well,
hurt?
please, to be clear, we're not sitting and waiting for that mistake. We're trying to make our own luck. We're trying to force that mistake. We're trying to bring this to a conclusion as rapidly as possible. And that's why you see the significant resources that have been brought to bear. If you've spent any time at all here, you've seen, no doubt seen patrol cars with uniformed troopers. You've seen other special operators from various state and federal entities, working through wooded areas or clearing buildings, and you've seen aviation assets overhead, and there are many other things in play that you haven't seen. And so, again, what I would point out is we are doing everything that I believe we reasonably can at this point, trying to be as unobtrusive in the community as possible, while at the same time giving this our full effort, and we are committed to ending this as quickly as possible.
I know you're not investigating the person's the jail escape per se, as I think you've said. But how concerned are you that this individual has eluded authorities now twice?
Well, obviously, that's a concern for us from the standpoint that he has experience in running from law enforcement. What will be done with him after he is captured, and he will be captured, again, that's a discussion for another day as to where he will be housed. I would expect that whatever those arrangements are, that we will be certain that he will be securely held so that we won't have another issue like this. Again, the escape itself, I'll let that to others to investigate and follow up and take appropriate action. Our focus right now is to get him back in custody.
Again, do you feel like you've been close? I know you don't want to reveal too much about exactly what's going on out there, but do you feel like you've been close to getting him?
I believe that we are actively and aggressively pushing him. I don't want to say any more than that, or try to characterize that in terms of how close, but I do believe that we are on the right path.
Lieutenant Colonel, there's been so much said about him being a self-taught survivalist. What do you know about that? I mean, how have you spoken to anyone to get a sense of what that means, and self-taught, how extensive is his training? And
We have, again, I don't want to go into all of that here, but what I would tell you is that our investigators have interviewed many, many people, associates, relatives, fellow inmates, many interviews that have been conducted. From that, we have drawn a picture of who he is and how we anticipate that he may react to various situations. All of that, again, factors into our actions as we work on apprehending him and again, bringing this to a conclusion as soon as possible.
Lieutenant Colonel, considering that some of these leads are coming from the Allegheny National Forest, which a lot of people use recreationally, is there reason to believe that people who may be up there at some campsites are at any heightened risk? And is there a way that all of this situation is being communicated to them, considering that they may be in a remote situation where maybe they're not getting the updates that we are?
We are making every effort to get the word out. I mean, I think the press conferences like this and trying to cooperate fully with the media is one way that we're doing that. We are also pushing information out on social media. Those who are responsible for patrolling those areas, I know, are also putting information out. And at this point, we're not suggesting that people shouldn't use the National Forest, or should change their plans in any way. What we are suggesting is that they remain vigilant. If they see something, there's no reason to believe that they would not be able to simply stay back, reach out to law enforcement, and let us investigate and take a look. In the meantime, we also ask them, as I've said, make sure their cars are locked, that things aren't out and easily accessible by him, whether it's supplies that he might use, a weapon that he might access, or even a vehicle that he could use to escape the area. All of those things are critically important to us.
Yesterday you said it's possible someone may be helping him. Today you sound more confident in that. Is there definitive evidence now that someone is helping him?
I'm not going to comment any further than to say what I've already said, that we do believe that's a distinct possibility, and we are thoroughly investigating that with the goal of prosecuting that.
Lieutenant Colonel, I know you can't speak for the investigation at the prison jail itself, but can you say if people are being sensibly questioned, the staff, is there any video that would show or depict him in there, or give you any indication of how he was able to do what seems like a rather remarkable escape here? Are there videos or anything like that?
There is some information available to investigators that I believe will conclusively allow them to determine how that escape occurred. Again, it's not our purview in this investigation, and so I really don't want to comment any further than that, other than to say that I do believe that the Warren City Police will be able to determine that, and we are privy to interviews that have been done as they relate to any information that might help us have a better understanding of the program. But again, in terms of how that investigation is playing out in a timeline, I would have to refer to the Warren City Police.
In the interest of identifying him, are there any more pictures that you have of him, or some of the video that was referred to in the complaint? Again, by the local authorities?
We believe the picture we've distributed is the most accurate photo that we have of him. Other than the clothing that's depicted, the prison garb that can be seen in the photo, we have no reason to believe that that appearance has changed. Is it possible? Yes. But we don't have another photo at this point.
And you're not considering releasing this video? I guess it's not your purview, but...
It's not our video to release, sir.
Lieutenant Colonel, obviously, priority one is getting Burham back behind bars, and that's worth every penny, but is it accurate to say that marshaling forces of this scope comes at a steep cost to taxpayers, that doing something of this magnitude is not cheap if you're going to do it well and capture them?
It does come at some expense, yes, sir.
There have been residents that have said that there have at least been 2 scenes over the last couple of days near the waterfront being checked out. Can you speak to the importance of a water source to a person like Burham?
Well, I mean, certainly a water source is important. The specific location of those residences that you're referring to that we've checked out, I don't know that a river is particularly important versus a stream. A water source is important to them, I'm sure, for drinking and for surviving. But I don't know that there's any particular significance to the fact that those homes are individual.
Are those campsites that you referenced, are they designated to like a small specific area, are they wider in scope in terms of where?
There are items that we have found in a variety, not just in one specific area, but in a variety of places, and again, I don't want to get any more specific than that. I wouldn't want him to know exactly what we have found or not found at this point in time if he is able to access media or information.
Lieutenant Colonel, just one last one. You had said yesterday, I believe, it's been said all along, consider him armed and dangerous. Do you have any reason to believe at this point he has gained access to a firearm or any kind of a weapon?
I do not have conclusive evidence that he has obtained a firearm. As I have said all along, he is absolutely a dangerous individual based on his past actions. In the past, he has sought and been successful in obtaining a firearm when on the run. I expect that he will have tried the same thing, and so out of an abundance of caution, and I believe common sense, we're advising people to consider him armed and dangerous, and I think is likely that he is.
Are there specific areas of the forest, I know you didn't want to go into details, but are there specific areas that people who are recreationally using the forest should avoid, where there might be places that you guys are intensively searching?
No. Again, our searches are driven by various investigative leads or tips or whatever, so there really isn't any way that I could say this part of the forest should be, quote, off limits. We don't have the authority to do that anyway, but I don't believe it's necessary. And it can change, what information we need.
Quick question for ADA Brown. Would you address from a prosecutorial standpoint what sort of charges could be facing someone who does assist Burham?
Some of the charges, or at least the main charge, would be conspiracy to commit an escape. Anyone who helps him or aids him in that escape would be charged.
And to what level do those charges rise? What sort of punishment would await someone if they were found guilty of it?
They are felony charges, so they'd be looking at possibly significant prison.
What exactly are the charges that he is currently facing before the escape? Because I think you said kidnapping and burglary.
Yes.
What about the other cases, the other homicide investigation and
Those are
various
out of New York, and my understanding is he has not been charged in all of those crimes. He's been a suspect in some of those. I wouldn't want to speak for the New York authorities as to what they intend to do with those, but specifically the reason he was back here in Warren County was for the kidnapping, burglary, and related charges to the incident in May when he abducted and carjacked an elderly couple in South Carolina.
And the burglary is of what?
Their home.
So that's not the second, that's not the incident allegedly involving the second woman.
Our charges are related specifically to
To the couple.
those in Warren County at that residence.
Quick question for you, Lieutenant Colonel. For the inmates that are held at that county jail, normally facing these types of severe charges,